With less than a week to Cameroon's election, the world's oldest head of state appears to have a strong chance of victory. Paul Biya, the 92-year-old president who has been in power since 1982, is seeking an 8th term in polls that will open on Sunday. Opposition parties have failed to form a united front against Biya, who has rejected calls to stand aside amid speculation about his health. His own daughter said she will not vote for him in a viral TikTok message, although she has recanted. The cocoa and oil producing country faces several challenges, including a long-standing separatist insurgency by Anglophone separatists and attacks by jihadist groups. Meanwhile, few election observers expect Cameroon to hold a free and fair election, but the International Crisis Group says there are constraints on political freedom and restrictions on civil society groups that previously acted as independent electoral observers.
Right, to provide analysis on the upcoming presidential election in Cameroon, where President Paul Biya is seeking yet another term after 43 years in office, we're joined by Dr. Adoyi Omale, his international affairs analyst.
Thank you so much for joining us.
How does a 92-year-old seek an, 8th term in Cameroon? What exactly do you think has allowed him to continue for over 4 decades? Is it a weakened opposition? What exactly is happening in Cameroon?
Well, it cannot happen in Nigeria. That is one thing I can assure you.
Can we be guaranteed of that?
Yes, because Nigerians, we are very active when it comes to opposition politics. What is happening in Cameroon is that the man is a complete despot. He has jettisoned any tenets of democratic principle. The elections that are being held are just sham rituals that will just lead to perpetuating him in office. And that is why we keep on saying that many African countries are what we term banana republic. Right. They just do elections for the sake of conducting elections with predetermined outcome. And if you look at Cameroon, for the past 43 years that Paul Biya has been in the saddle, there's really nothing to write home about in terms of economic development, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of employment generation, in terms of industrialization. He just keep on perpetuating himself in office as a lackey of the French government in Paris, and who continuously perpetuate him in power. And it's a very unfortunate situation for Africa that people like Paul Biya are still in power. We saw how dictators sit tight leaders like Arab Moi fell in Kenya, Matthew Kereko in Benin Republic, Felix Humford Boigny, and several of them. And it's unfortunate that by this year, 2025, Paul Biya is still holding tight to power in Cameroon, and it's very unfortunate for Africa.
Very unfortunate. I think if I can remember, you've used the word unfortunate like 3 times in that response. But where the ballot really changes leadership, can we still describe that as a democracy? I mean, they go every cycle to elect a leader, but the leadership never changes. Would you describe that type of governance as democratic in Cameroon? Also, I mean, nearly 60% of Cameroon's population is under 25. Many of them have never known any other president. What does that say about the generational gap, the political participation, and trust in governance?
Like I said earlier, Paul Biya has continued to perpetuate himself in power. I don't think he is in power because the Cameroonians voted for him or love him so much, or he has performed so much. He is in power because he has been able to perpetuate himself. He has not allowed opposition to thrive. He has crushed all voice of dissent and continue to amend the constitution to continue to perpetuate himself in power. So I don't see any democratic tenets in what is going on in Cameroon. Democracy is about the choice of the people selecting their leaders, people choosing their leaders, and they have to choose from a wide range of options. Yes, Cameroon has over 300 political parties. You will agree with me that that is unwieldy. How can 300 political parties exist? It's one of the ways in which he wants to perpetuate himself in power, by creating confusion in the name of multipartism. He allowed so many parties to be created so that the opposition cannot be able to galvanize to challenge him for power. So what is you talk about generational gap.
Yes.
Apart from Amadou Ahidjo, who was the first president of Cameroon in 1982, he resigned and handed over power to Paul Biya, who was prime minister. And since then, Paul Biya has held on to the power and has refused to relinquish it. Now, let me say that the essence of democracy, the liberal Western democracy that we know, is that no matter how good you are, no matter how endowed you are, no matter how savvy you have performed, tenure limit is one of the cornerstones of modern liberal democracy. You spend your 4 years, 2 years, or even 5 years, as the case may be, you get another re-election, and then you step aside, so that another person can come and add his own value.
With freshness.
Yes, to the country. But what we are witnessing in Cameroon is just not acceptable. It's a sham.
Yes, and of course in 2008, he actually removed a 2-term limit for presidency.
Yes.
By amending the constitution. And you say that this cannot happen in Nigeria, but let's look at the wider, implication for democracy in Africa. And indeed, Nigeria. Then the global response, the UN is calling for fair elections in Cameroon. Like seriously, the UN actually believes that Paul Biya will conduct free, fair, credible elections in Cameroon. I mean, after he's been there for over 4 decades. Let's talk about the implications for Africa's democracy. And how should the rest of the world, be responding, the international community, to this?
You see, Mandela in South Africa refused to even seek a re-election. That was very instructive.
Yeah.
President Jonathan lost the election as a sitting president in Nigeria. He stepped aside and allowed the will of the people to prevail. We have seen incumbent lost election in Botswana, in several other countries in Africa. I think what the generality of Africans, what we are saying is that Paul Biya, having been in power for 43 years, it was time for you to have stepped aside so that other people can attain that office. But he is still insisting. He is going for a 7-year tenure. And if God blesses him and he completes the 7 years, he will be almost 100 years. And that is not good enough. He's almost senile. And I wonder what Cameroonians are doing, that they are tolerating such rascality, because I can't believe that a 92-year-old man is still struggling for power.
So how can the people take back their country? I mean, is that...
They have to rise up. They have to rise up. They have to march in the streets. They have to take power. The young generation you talk about, we saw what happened in other climes, the Gen Z uprising. The Cameroonians have to march onto the street and drive him out of the presidential villa.
Let's not forget that Paul Biya does have institutions backing him, including the country's military. But Dr. Adoyi Omale, International Affairs Analyst, thank you so much for sharing your views on the upcoming election in Cameroon.
Thank you for having me.